Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I send this light to you. I send this love to you as I open to this day of world peace, the International World Day. As we keep this month and connections going, I come to you from the most humble place of opening myself up to healing, to health, and to witness. I bring you into just a little practice that I usually do. I read sacred texts in the morning from all different traditions. So I thought I'd read them with you today. It was a year ago we did a World Peace International Day with the Torch family, and I'm hoping my Torch brothers and sisters will join me the 16th through the 20th. And others will join us for a 5-day vigil for peace. And as I build up to that, I wanted to just share a few words from some theologians. As many of you know, I'm a theologian. I walk in so many different areas of my life. But as I took my last child to college, my home is in a new space. And it's a fulfillment feeling. It's a feeling of heart. It's a feeling of love. It's a feeling of commitment to connect with my kids from a different form of mothering. And as this World Day of Peace comes to us, one of the first readings I got and meditations were from Yogi Paramahansa. He was one of the first, Yogananda was one of the first readings outside of the Christian tradition that I touched upon when I was in my early, probably right around 18 or 19. I got the book of a yogi. Somebody gave it to me, and I was shocked at the teachings, and I was surprised at the gift. And through my 20s, I feel spiritually he walked with me very deeply as I moved into a lot of different areas of my life as a new mom. And Yogananda really held something precious. So let's read this meditation to start with. Someone's here with us. Hello, Nizam. Nice to see you. So it's the Day of Peace, the World Peace Day in the Presbytery tradition, and I'm going to read some reflections from the Presbytery. As many of you know, I'm in the ordination track, and it's in between interfaith and Presbytery and interfaith and ecological, and this week it's been about health. I slipped this week, and I've been, every time I breathe, I'm in quite a bit of pain underneath my right ribs. And it's been interesting moving through some of that. So it's a change. And I listened to a couple of Torch members last night from a year ago, and our World Peace International Day and our World Peace talks. And I talked a lot about my early mothering and about world peace and what that means to me. So you can go back and watch it. But today's just comes to you from just a reading of a few traditions that I totally just open to. And every day before I do something like this, I usually center myself and pray. And my morning's been soft. Got the cat box cleaned. Got the little areas of my house, got the garbage out, lit some candles. I lit my mother's candle. It's a blue candle, and I put it near Mary, and I started the week off. This last Friday, I think I started by really praying to Mary, my beautiful friend, Betty Stevenson. shared with me this beautiful opening. And I watched a little bit of Michio Kushi last night, and I was really touched because when I was with him, it's about the fourth, he had 12 levels of spiritual training. And I met him at 27. And so as I trained deeper into my own work, I had already studied Steiner, I'd already studied Yogananda, I'd already studied, the depths of the Christian tradition and the monks and the nuns, because I went to retreats quite often in my 20s. I'd take 3 or 4 days off and go on retreat from being a mom. I was very opened in my 20s, very open to all. And one of the openings happened in my early 30s, and there was this moment of grace, which happened already in my 20s. It happened when I was 19, and the shining light of heaven came up over me, and I just thought everyone had these experiences, and I think we do, but we don't talk about it. I think we don't share about our sacred moments. So over the last 3.5, 4 years, I've been sharing moments, hoping that you'll share your moments, because each of us have these sacred moments, these inspirational moments, these times when, maybe the lights came on, the lights come on. And Michio had that in war, and his dream was one peaceful world, and he stood fast. He stood fast his whole life to really stand for world peace. And I've really been there since my 20s as well. And as I moved into, theological work, because it was my dream to really look at theology in a deeper level and study theologians and study ideas. And I looked at his work, so precious, in a way that was so practical. And I've tried to be a practical theologian, a practiced theologian. And I think each of us need to be practiced. And if anything I share, it would be about your own inner practice, so you sturdy yourself. And one of the readings today is about the shakiness of our foundation. And worldwide, the foundation is shook. And it's out of Paul Tillich's work, so I'll read out of that. Paul Tillich was a theologian of the Christian tradition. But the foundations have been shook. We're in a foundational shaking underneath our feet. And the sturdiness is going to come from your practice. And the sturdiness is going to come from your practice to not follow the chaos in the world, but to sturdy yourself internally. And so as we sturdy ourselves, as we open ourselves to this day, this World Day of Peace, I've promised to myself that I would do a deeper practice in this month. And I've started by clearing space in my house. I've got a couple more bookshelves. I've got cupboards still to go through. I've got books to let go of, which is one of the biggest, things for me. I've got things outside to bring inside because I have some space to do that. Specifically a rice huller, which is very precious to me, that I bought for my store in 2001. The rice huller is a huller I had back in Beckett, Massachusetts, when I was probably 1990, trying to think, when 93. We got to borrow a rice huller from Alex Jack, and then I was able to buy one in my business. And fresh hulled brown rice is very precious. And some of you know that I got really sick. March 9th, I came down with a fever. I had symptoms of COVID. I kept those symptoms for about 8 weeks. I've still got this residual cough. I've been trying to open myself to what that is, to release it. So simplifying a lot around my space, simplifying a lot in my internal, what I put in, simplifying in how much I do and how much I say yes to. And most days I want to say, yes, yes, let's do it, let's do it. And then I have to pull back and I have to come back in. Is that going to fit for me? And so my practice needs a sturdiness after I did 3.5 years of theological study, and my balance was shook a little bit from just like trying to get balanced in an academia setting to do good theological work, but at the same time doing, the physical form work that we each need to do. There's no perfect health. We either go towards health or away from health. And I like to go towards health most of the time. But when you get busy, you go away from health. And when you sturdy yourself going towards health, towards your North Star. So I'm setting up an ancestry altar, which I've done. The depth of praying for the souls of your ancestry is very important. In the Christian tradition, it's All Souls Day around right around October, right around Halloween, the All Souls, November 2nd. Actually, it's towards November 2nd. And as you entertain the world peace moment, the world presence of inner peace, it has to come from that foundation. So Michio and Aveline, really stood for a dedication to food, because they knew by putting good food in, you can settle the mind and settle the heart and settle the sickness. And when you look at Jesus's teachings, he did the same thing. He settled people. And when you go into St. Francis, which I studied at the Franciscan School of Theology for 2 years, there's a deep part of me that goes back to Franciscan tradition. So I wear the Franciscan cross. Francis was the lover of ecology. In my 20s, Francis was very rich in my heart. So here's a beginning day, September 1st, of my 30-day, maybe longer vigil for humanity. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of chaos in our lives. There's a lot of chaos in our traditions. There's a lot of chaos in our theological work. There's a lot of chaos in religion. There's a lot of chaos in atheism. There's a lot of chaos in, all the different ways of being. But really, the earth is shaking. So the chaos for global change, the earth is shaking from the floods and the fires and the disroil. It's a disrupt. It's a disrupt. The earth is actually disrupting us. We can disrupt business, we can disrupt everything, but when our lives get disrupted, with floods or fires, it's completely smoky outside my house today from the fires. The air is bad, the quality of air is bad, the windows are shut, right? This is pure chaos. So what the Holy Wisdom, Holy Word says to me is to open ourselves to a steadiness, a sturdiness within, so that we can steady and sturdy ourselves spiritually. Because as we steady and sturdy ourselves and we listen to the words and the messages of theologians worldwide, you can see the presence of God in a way that can open you to the possibilities. So let's read from Yogananda. This is a meditation, so if you want to take this and just stop the feed and then go meditate on this, please do. And any of the things that I read today, you just stop this and get off the live and go read. You can come back, but after each reading, take some space if you choose, and then come back. And you can come back. I'm just doing this as a World Peace Day, as a global peace day, and I shine my candle to you, to the torch, to the light within you, so that you spark that holy sturdiness within you. The sturdiness has to come now. It's not feeling like we're in a sturdy ground. So the sturdiness has to come internally. I wear my beautiful scarf from my sisters in Karachi, so I'm sending prayers I lectured there in January. There are floods there are very devastating. So we've got fires here and water there. So the elements are speaking, right? The elements are speaking. And the air quality is bad here. So I've got air and fire in my elemental disrupt, right, today. So as I cleared my home and I set up more altars today, and the candles are lit in my Japanese altar and my sacred altar, and I moved more on this World Peace Day. I hope you go around your home and make a sacred space, that your home becomes the sacred theology, the sacred witness within yourself. Okay, so let's start. Here's meditation. I will bathe in the sacred pool of God's love hidden behind the ramparts of meditation. I will make my inner environment perfect through meditation, that it be impervious to all adverse outside influences. I will begin each day with meditation on the Supreme Being. In the temple of silence, I discover thine altar of peace. On the altar of peace, I find thine ever new joy. Let me hear thy voice, O God, in the cave of meditation. I will find perpetual celestial happiness within. Then peace will reign in my heart, whether I am in peace or in the midst of activities. Every star of heaven, every pure thought, every good act shall be a window through which to behold thee. As I opened to this passage, I didn't read it prior to our conversation of reading it in front of you, but it exactly speaks of what I'm thinking. The foundation is shook underneath our feet. So let's go to Paul Tillich. He's a Christian theologian. The Shaking of the Foundation is the name of the book. And I pulled it out, and I didn't know what the book was, but it was really clear as I was putting books away. It was like, read this book. And I was like, okay. So it's on my couch with multiple books because I love reading snippets of books. And he reads from Jeremiah 4:23-30 in the Bible. I look out on earth, lo, all is chaos. And I just want to give you some dates here. He wrote this in 1955. Jeremiah was back, I think I should know my dates, but I don't. But Jeremiah was, it's an amazing book to read in the Bible. It says, I look out on earth, lo, all is chaos. I look at heaven, its light is gone. I look out at the mountains, they are trembling, and all the hills are swaying. I look out, lo, no man is to be seen. All the birds have flown. I look out, lo, the sown land lies a desert, and the towns are all razed by Lord's rage. For thus has the Lord said, the whole land shall be desolate, and for this shall the earth mourn, and the heavens above be black. I have purposed it and will not repent. Neither will I turn back from it. At the noise of the horsemen and the archers, the land all is in flight. Men take refuge within woods and caves, and climbing upon the rocks. Every city shall be abandoned, and not a man dwell therein. You ruined creature, what will you do? Jeremiah 4:23-30. Here's Isaiah 54:10. For the mountains shall depart, and the hills be removed. But my kindness shall not depart from thee, neither shall the covenant of my peace be removed, saith the Lord that has mercy on thee. That's Isaiah 54:10. And this is in Paul Tillich's book, The Foundations, the shaking of the foundations. Thank you. Thank you, Mahmoud. Yeah, I will read again in my writings. Thank you for sharing. Mahmoud Mohammed is a wisdom keeper in Texas, studies tradition of Islam. Thank you for being with me. Nizam, I don't know you, Udin, but thank you for asking. Nice to see you too. Here's Isaiah 24:18-20, and we're going to read the shaking of the foundations, the first little chapter here of Paul Tillich. He was a great theologian. He comes to us here in Europe. His earlier writings, for the most part, have been concerned with problems of theology and philosophy and full appreciation of them. Dr. Tillich, so he was a doctor in the church, was directed his thought to a far wider audience in clear and understandable terms. So he really looked at practical application. So, he's somebody that I know I'm supposed to read more of. You have so much time between classwork, and now is my time to read some of the theologians and really put my work into its forefront. I've applied for my own doctorate starting in January, so we'll see. It depends on cost and money and all of the above, but let's pray. So here's Isaiah 24:18-20 in the biblical text. The foundations of the earth do shake. Earth breaks to pieces. Earth is split in pieces. Earth shakes to pieces. Earth reels like a drunken man. Earth rocks like a hammock. Under the weight of its transgression, earth falls down to rise no more. Lift up your eyes to heaven and look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall grow old like a robe. The world itself shall crumble, but my righteousness shall be forever, and my salvation knows no end. So here's Paul Tillich writing. It is hard to speak after the prophets have spoken, as they have in these pronouncements. Every word is like the stroke of a hammer. There was a time when we could listen to such words without much feeling and without understanding. There were decades and even centuries when we did not take them seriously. Those days are gone. Today we must take them seriously, for they describe with visionary power what the majority of human beings in our period have experienced, and what perhaps in a not too distant future all mankind will experience abundantly. The foundations of the earth to shake. The visions of the prophets have become an actual physical possibility and might become a historical reality. The phrase earth is split in pieces is not merely a poetic metaphor for us, but a hard reality. This is the religious meaning of the age into which we have entered. The Bible has always told us of the beginning and the end of the world. It speaks of eternity before the world was founded. It speaks of a time when God laid the foundations of the earth. It speaks of the shaking of these foundations and of the crumbling of the world. In one of the later books, 2 Peter, it says, the heavens will vanish in the crackling roar, and all and the elements will melt with fervent heat, and the earth also, and work therein shall be burnt up. There is no longer vision, it has become physics. But we know that in the ground of our earth and in the ground of everything in our world that has form and structure, destructive forces are bound. Laying the foundations of the earth means binding those forces. When the unruly power of the smallest parts of the material world was restrained by cohesive structures, a place was provided in which life could grow and history develop, in which words could be heard and love be felt, in which truth could be discovered and the eternal adored. All this was possible because of the fiery chaos of the beginning was transformed into the fertile soil of the earth. Hello, Akash Gupta. I'm reading from The Shaking of Foundations by Paul Tillich. He's really worth reading. He's talking about the shaking, and I opened this up as it fell onto my couch. I literally was doing books yesterday, and this book came, and I didn't even really open it. I just kind of said, oh, and it was immediate, read the book. So I'm eternally grateful this morning to read some of this idea from Paul Tillich. Paul Tillich and other theologians have written what scriptures and development have done, but just like Yogananda has gone through the all the scriptures of the Upanishad and all of the different ideas around Hindu tradition, same with Islam. So I'm going to read now from the Mayan tradition. And the Mayan tradition has come to me for the last 3 months. And this is the book of Destiny, Unlocking the Secrets of Ancient Mayan Prophecies. And I opened up to this, and let's just read. I did read this little section, and I said this is perfect for today, for the world peace building. I met an elder once when I was young. Some called him the oldest of the old, and others described him as a man of few words. I was able to earn his trust, so he told me his truth. He said the universe, and therefore the world, arose before the Creator willed it. The Creator met with the Maker, and they made their will manifest, begetting reality. This came about in a magical form of Nacht, or space-time. I think it's called Nacht. Reality exists in a preordained place and is determined by an ability to give shape to the manifestations of energy or unreality. We learn this once we lose the innocence we are born with. When this happens, our lives may become caught in this unconsciousness, and that is when we become fragile. When this humanity was lost after the Great Father punished them for having become vain and forgetting their Creator, he sent our first grandfathers, the Balaam Kits, Balaam Akab, Mujkutaj, and Iki Balaam. They came from Zob, Us, Chumil, or the Pleiades. So the Mayan tradition goes back many traditions. I've been studying with Tata Jose for the last 3.5 months, and he's doing a big dream catcher up in Williams on the 14th and 15th, and I'm hoping to go up to the area and be part of that journey with them. They come from this whole idea of the galactic ideas of traditions. And if you look at the biblical traditions and the Mayan tradition and even Yogananda, the teachings are all so sweet. It says they came from these areas. These are great wise men, visionaries, and incredible wizards. Their homeland is our homeland. Their tradition is our tradition. Their legacy is our way of life. They taught us all of the arts and gave us knowledge, because this place where our first fathers came from is where reality occurs. Here begins the manifestations of everything, our grandfathers said, and this is how we express it. When they came to our world, they were disoriented, as if lost outside their reality. They longed for their place of origin and their dignity, but they were sent by the Great Father to have descendants and populate the earth in order to remember the Creator and Maker. This story changed my life. I suddenly understood that we have shared origin, that our grandfather's dignity was a dignity bestowed by the Great Spirit, the Son of Sons, that knowledge can be found in both the stars and on the earth. This is where my journey began. This story was what awakened my desire to return to our elders' tradition. The extraordinary thing about these words was that while they made me feel I had always been distracted and disoriented, in time, I was able to value the depth of Don Pasquale's story. I was shocked when 20 years later I was reading about the latest scientific advances and learned about astronomers' discovery an enormous wormhole, as they call it, just next to Pleiades. This wormhole contains all the galaxies and nebula, and there is nothing outside of it but an immeasurable void. I now understand the power of fascination that the Pleiades holds over the Mayan world as the origins of everything that exists, the mythical Paxil and Kayala, parallel dimensions known as Mayan paradise, and I place more value in our grandfather's stories. So this book by Carlos, Carlos died this year, Barrios. I believe it was this year. He's a shaman and a member of the Mayan Elder Council, and he's been, I think very noted by most of the Mayan teachers. And during the days of the 16th through the 20th, I've asked a couple of Mayan elders to come and be part of our days. And Akash and Mahmoud and Nizam and anyone watching, please be part of this event. If you want to share, message me and we can set you up with a time. I'm trying to set that up. I'm going a little slow right now because I injured myself this week. So I'm going a little slower than I thought I would. So I'm reading next under a Native American theology. I studied 10 years in the Council of Native American when I found out my ancestors were Native in 1999 when my dad died. And I had been given a pipe in 1997 by elders in the Choctaw tradition. And I buried the pipe in 98 because I said, oh, I'm not Native American. And I got addicted to tobacco for a year doing the peace pipe. And I did a whole ceremony around it, and that's another whole story. But it was a really deep ritual to bury my pipe and said, I'm done with the pipe. And then in 99, found out I was Native American by just a small piece, but it was significant because it was a great grandmother on my mother's side. And the tradition of Native comes from the grandmothers, down in through. And your ancestry is marked from that. And so 10 years in council and leading a sweat lodge and, leading ceremony for 10 years in different forms was really important for me. Lighting the sacred fires, really developing. So I studied theology when I was here at the Franciscan School of Theology with my good friend Eddie Fernandez at the Jesuit school. He's an amazing theologian of culture, and I've asked him to be my doctorate, to oversee my doctorate work, and I'm hoping he will. That was a year and a half ago. I said, I really want to keep going with school, and he said, just keep doing it. And he was thrilled about the work I was doing with the torch and developing, practical system change. And, as you look, so many people hate religion, but, for me, it's all of our ancestors. It's just our ancestry. It's our consciousness. It's where we live from. It's not a thing called religion. The thing called religion, I think, got wormed into this idea that religion became the chaos. No, it was the human beings that became the chaos to me. It was the human beings. Okay, Akash, sleep a little bit, rest again, go meditate on those words and sleep well, be blessed. I want to talk to you and have a Facebook Live with you. That would be nice. Join us for the Peace Day and do some readings. You're an amazing theologian in your own forms, and I love your work. Akash Gupta comes from Nepal. He's our torch member from Nepal. The Minister of Peace has invited me to come to Nepal, so I hope to journey. I hope I'll be able to travel. We don't know. We don't know what traveling will be. So as you move into this next chapter of this work, myth and sacred text is the little section I open to. The cosmologies of native people explain their religion with the forces of nature and with each other. Although missionaries generally dismissed origin traditions as made-up stories, Franz Boas found the basis of understanding common humanity in collections of oral traditions and the study of language. I've talked quite a bit this week about oral traditions. And I really believe that our orality comes from, these old Greek ideas. And I remember listening to this very early on in my 20s and said, I'm kind of an oral speaker. And I always felt that I really love to go deeper within the orality of my ideas, because they flood through us. And I think this is the purity of each of us. And I think our pure hearts, if we do a deep practice, if we do a deep spirit walk, I would call, or a spiritual walk, or a theological walk, or a traditional walk, or a, coming of age walk, we go deep into the psyche. And mine was my whole life. I keep doing my theological work. Right now it's clearing, just different areas in my house after raising 5 children and 39 years of mothering. And as I clear spaces, I'm clearing thought, and I'm clearing ideas, and I'm clearing my body, and I'm dancing to music every day, and I'm stretching. And my body physically really hurts this week. I slipped when I was walking with some groceries downtown, and I pulled a muscle up in my upper rib cage. And every time I breathe, every time I cough, today is better, but every day it's getting a little better, but it's been really painful. So as you look at these traditions and the study of language, the oral is so precious. It's precious. So I think when you practice, when you take time to do that inner chamber work, that inner heart work, that inner place of the chambers of your heart, you will call in the sacred in a way that you can envelop your soul life. It's kind of, somebody said that their grandmother was washing. I think it was grandmother Tia. She said, my mother used to wash her hair with the air. And it was such a powerful image this week from grandmother. And she lives in the South Islands, and she's such a wisdom keeper. And she was saying how her grandmother washed her hair with air every day. And that's just a beautiful moment, right? So I think I'll leave that with, I think that's enough of that. I'm going to read this section, but before that, this was my mother's little book that I got when she passed. She passed in 2006, and she must have read this on a normal basis, because it was right on her counter, right above, right near her dishes. And I said, my sisters wanted all the jewelry and all that, and I kind of wanted to know what my mom read. What did my mother read in her secret moments? She always had the Bible laying on the table, and it was wide open. She had these poetry books, and that's a really unique moment for me, because when I was in 1st and 2nd grade, I'd go to the library, and all I would do is bring home poetry from all different forms. I loved poetry. I'm a poet in my heart of hearts. And if I write poetry, it's really from that oral place within me. And I think that's what poets are. They write from that orality of wisdom. It's really beautiful. So I'm going to read this. I've already posted it. It's September 1st. So it's a September 1st reading. And it says, those who bring sunshine to the lives of others cannot keep it from themselves. James Barry. And it says, O Lord, grant that living in your brightness, I may bring your sunshine into cloudy places. Amen. So I thought that was sweet today for September 1st. I've been journeying. My son and I have been journeying. He said, I want you to do a mind dump. And look at what I've been doing, my mind dump for the last couple days. And I'm trying to put my personal goals in place. And it's perfect timing this September 1st. But what I found in my beautiful work is this card, and I have many. If anybody would like one that is studying macrobiotics now, please let me know and I'll send it to you. I have probably about, I don't know how many, but Michio gave me a handful of them when I left her funeral. This was at her funeral There were 1,000 cranes. And in the back of it, she did a lot of haiku and a lot of poetry. Evelyn Kushi is the founder of the natural food movement here in America. And she writes here one of her haikus: on the big road of a wonderful 21st century, let's go happily together, hand in hand. And the funny part is I'm sitting, I just thought about this. This was my sketch paper I just bought probably 5 years ago, but this is for calligraphy. And I did ink drawings with Reverend Tanaka. I studied the Buddhist tradition, and I studied all of my 30s. And you have to have this very nice thin, it's a very thin paper, and it's very good for calligraphy. So I want to really, I just pulled it out, and it's funny because it won't fit in my cupboard, and I left it here on my couch yesterday as I was cleaning cupboards. And interestingly enough, oh wow, here's some of my writings, Mahmoud. Ancient mother of love and abundance, spirit of food. Oh, this is great. One day workshop, May 11th, 1996, 9 to 5 at the Abode of the Message. So I taught at a lot of places in my 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, now 60. But this was one of my workshops in 1996. We'll unite in a day of simple eating, music and sound, along with the art of chewing, Doin cooking styles. Come enjoy a day of healing, nourishment, merriment for the soul. I've been working, he gives me my medicine name. Oh, that's so funny that it's here. Linpo is my medicine name in the Buddhist tradition. Personally exploring spiritual practices in Buddhism, Christian, Native American, Rudolf Steiner, Shinto. So I studied so many different traditions in my personal life, and I didn't know this was sitting beside me today as well. So bringing many practices together through my personal experiences, I care to share upon of this work. And let's see what else is in this little one. Earthwise. Oh, children, adult, and pets. So I was teaching about the medicine wheel at that point, sacred space, inside and out. So I was teaching with a brother, Dave Rivers. He and I did a lot of work on feng shui, safe lawns for children and adults. So we talked about safe lawn. These must be all the workshops I was doing. Your daily rhythm with Lynn Chittick, Linpo, consultations on bringing order back into your life through diet, exercise, spiritual practice. This is so funny because I just did this brain dump, and here's this beside me because I was cleaning my cupboards. Right, this is how the wisdom works. This is it. When you start flowing through your life path, foods, cooking styles, health is a direction in life rather than a state of being. Rejuvenating a desire to change and improve yourself will naturally occur by adding good quality foods, positive direction, and rhythm. Oh my gosh, this is going way back. Health is a direction in life rather than a state of being. Desire to live more harmoniously with yourself and others. Positive reflection daily. Creating new habits within your day brings natural changes in your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So I was teaching about daily rhythms. I have no idea what year this was. This doesn't have a... So here's one on April 8th, 1996. This is great. Yeah, this is wonderful because this was when I went to FinCon. So let's see what this says. April 8th, 1996. Together, oh, this is in Illinois. This is at Fermilab. I took a patient to Fermilab. I'm not going to say her name because that's not polite. But she was 46 years old. She had salivary cancer. So she had a big cut from here all the way down. So I did a lot of palm healing and I did a lot of work with her. And I flew back and forth to Chicago with her. And I worked with doctors. And I went out to eat. The Windy City this morning, flew into Chicago. Last evening, stayed in Manhattan at the apartment of this person. Woke the day, a full great wind waking me up. The wind that fluttered through me. Now to be here. As we go to Fermilab, 2,000 acre atomic neutron matter center. She will start radiation next week. The whole complex, Fermilab, large with energy, resistance to this process. We both shared glances. I wasn't sure of her glance. If her glance was fear or wonder, what next? There's this moment when you're with patients and you work in that format with people. I worked with many, many different people over the years with health issues and disparities. And if you walk into Fermilab, it's just filled with machines. And in the machines, we walk through these huge, big silos. And this is where the atomic bomb was made, of Einstein's bomb. And it's powerful to read this today, that this is in my little readings to you, but it's how life works for me. But this moment of time, we walk up to this room and somebody greets us, and she opens the door and the doctor shares with her what she's going to experience. And it was a square room, and there were medical procedural type instruments all around the room. But in the middle of the room was like an electric chair. And he said, you're going to be sitting in the chair, and we have to strap your hands and strap you in. And it was just like an electrical chair. It was really intense. And what happens is the whole room moves down into the earth. And so this was 1996. I flew back and forth for many weeks with her to Chicago. And this work was intense. But synchrotrons go around the earth. They're 2-mile radius. There's 3 of them in America, maybe now more. But there's one in Ithaca where I lived. There's one at Fermilab in Chicago, and there's one here in Berkeley. So it's been very interesting to be around all 3 because I lived in Ithaca. I had a good friend that actually ran the machine, John, and he was a really good physics person. And so the Fermilab, taking her there was very powerful. The whole complex, large with energy, resistance of this process. We both shared glances. I wasn't sure if her glance was fear or wonder. What next? We've been together 2 weeks, cooking simple, basic macro, and surely this scientific world has no understanding. No understanding of cancer. Interestingly about this. Why cancer has come. Why they do all the treatments they do. Doctor to doctor, practitioner to practitioner, they all perplex me. Salivary cancer diagnosed December 1995. The operation was done in January 23 and February 6, both extreme. Both pulled out the tumor and now continue to want to kill out more. So this is a different writing that I write. Lord, unite me in this world, free from judgment. All beings brought forth out into the light. Relish in my simple story, so grand to me, and yet meaningless to the all. Wisdom of the unknown world, return, O great spirit, my beloved one, sources upon sources. May you use me for your purpose. And I have little spirals. This must have been around that same time. It's a very powerful time for me going to Fermilab. It's ashes to ashes, dust to dust, spiraling and dancing in the wind, so free to fly, everyone, dancing union. Angels, seasons bringing change, winding in and out, weaving, I call out angels. Come when we call, angels of love. This is a little picture. I did a lot of drawings over the years of different things that would come to me in the moment of writing, and I love to do that. So I don't know how much more I'll bore you with some of my writings. Yeah, these are all Fermilab. My love and I walked the other day. A plot of snowdrop fairies called to us. Subtle and shift, our hearts soften, tender and sweet. We shared with their friends, softening our hearts. Snowdrop, thank you. May I dance as they danced, quiet in the soft, tender and sweet. Oh, my beloved, may I quicken to solitude with you, so our words may return. Yes, we are union. Each step, our hearts unwind and our souls deepen, our spirits share. Will you always be there in unspoken words? I know, yes. And here's some little dewdrops. It was spring when I went with her. April 10th, 1996. Coffee, biscotti, relaxed, light and love, returning to yoga chanting and clarity. What is the responsibility of another life? My patient and I flowed yesterday with gentle flowers, not a lot of rush. I'm not sure of this word. I respect received from Dr. Pauline. Felt good in my soul, heart, and mind, my being nourished by my work. We start radiation tomorrow. Wow, I'm nervous. How can I relax and bring in full embodiment of light for my patient? She has a lot to digest. Her hearing may be dampened. Oh, angelic beings, I ask. I pray, and I humbly walk. Oh gosh, her mother died when she was in there. Are the repose to life simpler to mine? A feeling of knowing, birth, death, all entwined. Will I respond to my clarity, my heart of love, light, and peace for all beings? Health will come. So this was an intense time in my life, taking this cancer patient. And it was great to read these readings because it talks of my shaking ground, of the shaking ground of being with a person in the dying process of cancer and going to a place that even makes her shake more. And I did this with a number of patients. I did this, I'm very good at what I do. And as I move into a patient's life, I walk with them in an intuitive healing way and an intuitive spiritual walk, because each human being that has cancer has to expose themselves to their own death. And when you expose yourself to your own death, you realize how precious this earth is, this preciousness, and how much we live from the precious light. So as I walked with this patient, it was a very powerful walk. I'm very grateful to find these teachings. It's interesting today to find these. There's many more. So I'm not gonna bore you. Oh gosh, this goes back to 1990 when we bought the house. Beautiful. First time in Ithaca in the Kushi Institute writings. So we'll read those another day. It's great to find these today. As I clear out my months, here as I do the brainstorming with my son. He said, just take 2 or 3 days, Mom, and just dump everything out. And I look at my work over 30 years. I started working with cancer patients in 1990. And 93, I took cancer patients into my home. And by 1996, I was working with 1995, I started counseling and working with serious patients. And I went on through 2000. We moved, I bought my own home. And I went through a huge bump through 1998 from my divorce to 2002. It's a very extreme time in my life. Had a new baby in 2002, and she's the one that just left my home. So I'm very grateful for her life, but we've gone through lots of change and lots of trauma and lots of extremes. And you go through life path with people and you bring them forward in the journeying. I read these writings and I kind of come back to my own heart, my own wisdom of knowing the good works before this extreme time and after this extreme time. I kind of went underground, but at the same time, I got a community award by the mayor of Ithaca for community health. And I did work in environment and health. And I'm kind of coming to my full process now to know that I need to make money as a theologian, as a counselor. I never really charged too much for my services. I think going back and forth to Fermilab, I think it was $350 for many weeks. And they didn't want to pay me at the end, which was really powerful. Because I was an accompaniment and I couldn't cook for her, but I still traveled and away from my family. And, these type journeys as we wade through how we survive physically and how we entertain making a living has been really up this week as I put this mind dump, as my son helped me and into looking at what my work is. So it's great. And I'll read another reading from Aveline now. Happiness is giving more than receiving. Thus my mother taught me on the day the rainy season ended. She writes this and draws these beautiful little pictures. I just love Aveline's pictures. If you weren't here on the big road of the 21st century, let's go happily hand in hand. This is Aveline Kushi, the founder of the natural food movement. Here she is cooking, using her hands. She was a delicate cook, but very present. When I met her, she taught me Buddhist chanting and traditions of Buddhist. She died July 3rd, 2001. She was a 5 soil born in 1923, and she was born in the year of the boar. And she always said, you were born the same year as me. Watch out. She really was a great, great woman. I love Aveline Kushi. I love you. As I set up my ancestor altar, I've been praying a lot to Avelina Micho in gratitude. I'm going to read one more, and then we'll say goodbye. Bye. Good night. Thank you for joining me. I've been reading out of this book, I Remember Union, and I set up an altar of Mary, Mother Mary, but Mary Magdalene also. And I read out of this the other day, and I'm in the first chapter, And I'm hoping in 30 days we'll get through this book, but it's a really powerful story about Jesus's life that somebody channeled. And it's an oral teaching of somebody just did it. I'm pretty impressed with it. Flo Calhoun, I really believe in her work. Chrysalis of Being, the place of soul's inception. Surrounded by eternity, our soul is born. Then one by one, the beings of light encircle us. As we travel to the swing between worlds, as we travel, here all the knowledge of all time is known to us. All is seen and remembered and realized. As we choose our calling, our destiny, our identity of beings of light speak to us about our journey. They instruct us in the learning of our life lessons, encouraging us to remember the design housed within. Supported by these lights, we encode our calling into the deepest aspect of our soul as a seed kernel called the seed of light. In each, remember this code at exactly the chosen moment. This is so interesting because the torch is all about this, and I don't remember any of this, except I read this back in right after my divorce, so I must have read it in 1999. Very powerful for me, maybe 1998. The beings of light and knowledge without faces, names, or identities guide us and teach us through love and patience so that we will remember our soul's destiny. And in 2015, I wrote this book called Remembrance to Remember. And each time I'm reading this, I'm just like, wow, I didn't even have this book in my consciousness, but it was the consciousness of my orality. And I said that I would start reading that to you, and I'll try to pull it up today. So I'm going to read a couple of things from the teachings of the season of peace in the Presbyterian Church. They've taken this month of September, the 4 weeks, and the first week, 6th through the 12th, to help participants explore practices building peace on every scale. From the personal level to its global issues, these reflections and prayers will help grow the faith and witness of the whole church. So I want to take this personally to you, no matter what tradition you work in, no matter what tradition you are in, take this month. And as this first day of September, September 6th through the 12th is peace within. And I want you to go deep. The 13th through the 19th is peace in relationships. And so the 16th through the 20th, I've called out to the Torch family to do 5 days of peace and sharings and people that know peace. And September 20th, 13th through the 19th is peace in relationships. The third week is September 20th through the 26th, and it's peace in community. And then September 27th through October 3rd is peace in the world. The final day is October 4th, holistic peacemaking. In planning the season of peace reflections, we have tried to emphasize that the work of the peacemaking takes place in all levels of our lives. It's easy to see peacemaking in the world as some distant impossibility, too vast and unrealistic to ever engage in the effectively as individuals. It's also easy to forget that there is peacemaking work to be done here at home, in our own lives. This resource is meant to help us remember that engaging our own internal conflicts, building healthy relationships with each other, grappling with issues of peace and justice in our communities, and reimagining international relations are crucially interconnected steps of the path of peace. This is from Henry Conagstone in 2020 Season of Peace editor. So thank you. I'm excited to be in touch with him. So there's a whole reflection here, and I'm going to read this on September 6th. I'll probably read it a couple days, but there's a mirror of reading through biblical text along with reading through, we'll do interfaith readings throughout the month. And I just want to really open to you about social witness and social um, rest and action. There's a rest and an action that we each need to do. And rest and action is key to what we need to do for our peacemaking in all of our traditions. As I go towards ordination, this made me sing today because I needed to uplift myself in this idea of ordination. What does it take? What does it take to be able to move into ideas? So I'm not sure if you were able to hear me. I hope you were. I appreciate you all coming on. I'm going to leave you with that today. As September 1st, the World Day of Peace, peace building, the whole month till October 4th is peace building. And I hope you'll join me in different readings throughout the month. I haven't set up anything except for the 16th through the 20th is a 5-day, 21st is a 5-day window that I'm trying to put together with a group of people for world peace. And I want to leave you a little bit of that shaky ground, that idea of Paul Tillich. And I'm going to spend the morning reading his book. But as you start looking at the world, I want to bring it home to America right now for a couple of minutes. There's a lot of unrest in America right now. I'm very saddened by watching the news. I just started watching the news about 3 days ago. I hadn't watched the news in a while because I got my daughter off to college, and I'm just saddened by the disparities of what we've got moving. We're at a big unrest, and both sides of the unrest is shaking my own foundation of the country that I was born in. I was blessed to have honor of my president my whole life. I always had honor of my president. I always took it very serious. I remember the day, this week is the day of Martin Luther King when he spoke his great words. It was on the 27th, I believe, or the 26th of August. I was 10 when I found out he was shot. And it was kind of my first awakening of the shakiness underneath my feet. Because I was always in this angelic world. My whole life I've stayed in the depths of presence of God and how precious it is to me. And as a healer, as an intuitive healer, and a person that did a lot of healings for people, I pray this month could be a prayer for the United States in my country. And you can pray for your country and hope that we don't have borders. Just stop the border idea. But I did grow on this earth, and I did grow in the rule of law of the United States. And I'm grateful to my country. But what I see in this great disparity is that people have eaten so extreme that the extremes have moved on the ground. And I said it about a week and a half ago that the gremlins, feels like the gremlins have moved into the earth, and the gremlins are just here. And it's ugly, and it's not good, and it's painful to watch. And it's painful as a humanitarian. I guess I would call myself a humanitarian. This whole idea of socialism or socialist or Christian or, this or that and them. And This is what I studied for 12 years, is about pointing fingers at the other. I'm sorry, Kazi. Yeah, I'll pray for her. What is her name? Yeah, tell me her name and I'll pray for her. As you open up to the sickness, remember, if you can just take 10 days and clear your blood and eat simple. I'll start my chewing practice today, and I hope to chew really, really well. I mean, I chew well anyway. I eat very slow, but I pray to chew for 30 days and do my inner work for peace for the world in a different way than I have as I heal my own physical form. I just really am saddened by the United States of America. You know, in God we trust is on our dollar bill. People tearing down history. I get that there's history and it's negative history, but I also get that the unrest is not about tearing down, it's about building each other up and lifting each other up. How do we lift each other up during this time? I'm going to speak a lot about this because I haven't been political, but when I see both sides and the toxicity that I see, how will I vote in toxic ideas? If they don't start speaking from a truth of heart and wisdom, I don't know if I'll vote. If I don't see something change, I don't know if I'll vote. I'm really discouraged. I'm just not seeing grown-up people. I'm seeing adults acting as selfish children. I'm seeing adults teaching my children that it's okay to be that. I'm seeing adults teach, my children think it's ridiculous too, but both sides are ridiculous right now for me. Blaming and shaming, and if this is what our world has become in the toxicity of our blood, may we return to clean blood within our soul. May we return to clean blood to purify the lands for the next generations. May we return to the unity and the blessedness. My ancestors worked hard on this land, and they worked hard to make a better life for me. And this beautiful earth, my ancestors from Scotland and Ireland and England that left their homes as refugees and came to make a better world. And those ancestors that destroyed human life were not my ancestors. And if they were, I pray that my ancestor altar will pray for them to obliterate from my generation forward, that my children will not have to carry those demons, because we're carrying trauma from our ancestors that have done wrong. We're carrying trauma from the land that is poisoned and the earth that is poisoned, and that the consciousness of this planet is so disrupted. May we return to the union. May we remember union as we walk forward in this month of peace. And may we build upon something uniquely accredited to the next generation so that they hear our voices. They hear our voices as adults. I'm 61. I'm sure as heck not going to vote for either of these president candidacies that are speaking nonsense of the other, because that's not what I'm here for. And I'm not going to speak it, and I'm not going to live it, and I'm not putting up with it. And I don't know about you, but I determine to stand for peace on this planet. And if the United States, in God we trust, stands for anything, I pray to God that we stand for peace internally. And so I'm going to be real clear with you, my brothers and sisters. I get emails from both sides. I watch both sides. I will not vote for either side right now because of the destruction of what they're both carrying. They're causing more damage on this planet, and I won't put up with it. So as we stand for peace, as we stand for the injustices, as we stand for the ideas of turmoil, I pray that we each look at our own peace building. And really, I will stand for that within myself. And I hope, it's one of the reasons I stopped teaching, because I went through my own chaos of divorce. And I knew my toxicity would not go into another human being. I don't want that in my life. I don't want my toxicity. And I've had a lot of people cross over me and cross bridges with me, and I've had to let go friends and people online that have not treated me well in the last 3.5 years and taken advantage. But I will not vote for either of these president candidacies in America unless they grow up. And we'll see. And if they grow up, maybe we've got a chance. But I'm discouraged. My father, my mother taught me to have gratitude, to have moral righteousness, to have goodness. They took me to church to pray for others. They taught me to be of service to others. And I will be damned in hell if I choose to follow somebody that's really unjustly doing right to the next generations. And both of these presidents right now are doing unjust to our children by speaking what they're speaking. And I'm very saddened by it. And I love this country. But I love more this earth and the people upon her. And I love humanity. And I love the people on this earth. And I pray that this month of peace will change us all. And I'll leave you with a prayer, maybe a poem. Let's see what comes. In the unity of this great nation called Earth, the universal principle of heaven and earth, of unity and light and love, may those that walk upon her shed light and not injustices, shed love and not hate, shed light and deepen the peace. Care, celebrate, align, restore, and be effective. Care, compassion, alignment, restoration, elevate, care, cornerstone, allocated, reason, equality, care, cooperation, allowed, reflect, ease, care. Amen. Blessed be. Smile, smile, smile. Adonai.